Today we'll move on with a poem, Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. Before I get to explaining the poem, let us listen to the poem and take a feel of it. Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. Now just try and understand. Have you ever had one of those days where everything seems to be going wrong? Well, you're kind of stuck in a bad mood and the world just feels grey. Doesn't feel good at all. So in a way, you could be depressed. Robert Frost, in just 8 of these short lines, has shown us how a tiny unexpected moment can actually change everything. Very often, as he has used in this poem, the symbols that he has used in this poem highlight the fact that there are so many things that happen around us by way of natural occurrences that actually contribute to the change of mood. Now, if you just see, the poem actually opens in a cold, wintry landscape where Frost uses 2 symbols that are usually associated with gloom or fear. A crow, we have always associated it with something weird, uncanny, gloomy, right? And a very kind of a mystical kind of a halo around the crow. And then he has used the example of a hemlock tree. Now, a hemlock tree isn't a really bright or festive kind of a tree, a tree which people would turn around to look at and feel pleasant about. It's actually a poisonous tree. Now, taking into consideration the fear, the kind of life after death or symbol of death that is associated with a crow and poison that is associated with a hemlock tree, keeping that in mind, the poet expresses the first stanza saying, the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. Now here a crow, simply by moving on a branch, showers the poet with fine particles of snow. Understand? It's a random natural occurrence. Frankly speaking, something which very easily has happened. Nothing with any kind of purpose. But the poet standing there is in the dip of mood, is probably feeling extremely sad, depressed, pulled back about a lot of things. And in that pensive mood, he has stood under the tree and the crow has merely moved in a way that the snow on that particular branch of the hemlock tree drops down on the shoulder of the poet. Now then we come to an internal shift where the poet says, it has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. Now before this moment, the poet was in a state of rue. That means he was in shatters. He was feeling regretful or depressed. But the cold physical sting of the snow acts like a reset button for his mind. So for a second, I have always imagined, for a second he must have thought that the crow has, dropped his bit of shit on his shoulder and that has given him an unnerving feeling, and he must have turned around only to realize that it was a bit of snow. And that is that aha moment where the poet feels, that not everything that happens should be presumed to be bad. The crow and the poisonous tree, usually symbols of bad luck, actually become the instruments of his happiness here. Nature doesn't need to be pretty to be healing. It just needs to be experienced. Now let's note a few more things. Keep your eye on these three things that I am sharing with you. The rhyme scheme. The poem follows a simple A-B kind of a rhyme scheme. A-B, and then C-D, where A-B reflects in crow and snow, me and tree. And then C-D in heart and part and mood and rude pattern. Then the next literary device, that is figure of speech, he has used is symbolism, where Frost actually subverts expectations. He uses the negative, that is the crow or the hemlock tree, to create a positive feeling, that is a feeling of joy or a positive change. So to indicate that, to demonstrate that, to express the transition from the negative to the positive, he uses symbols which are quite contrast or contradictory in their existence. That is the crow and the hemlock, both which are negative, actually are the mediums to bring about joy or change in mood. So that is how he has used symbolism. And then irony. The very things that we usually avoid, or the poet would have otherwise avoided, are the things that actually save the poet's day. So now the sight of a crow or the sight of a hemlock tree, which otherwise would have brought across a feeling of negativity or fear or such emotion, actually saved the poet's day by making him go through a change of emotion. So let us understand that the message of Dust of Snow is simple but profound. Little things in life can make huge changes in our perspective. Let us not let a bad start ruin our whole day. Sometimes all you need is a little dust of snow to see the world differently. Against this backdrop, against this background, would you like to hear the poem again? Here it is. Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. See you again with the next poem.